What a race. What a race we just had in Hungary, and it's the third race in a row where we had an absolute slapper of a race. And a lot of controversy in this one too. But before I talk about the actual Hungarian Grand Prix, I would like to talk about how indestructible F1 cars have become. This is Charles Leclerc crashing his Ferrari SF24 in free practice 2. You're gonna be surprised by the amount of damage he got.
Harder than touched, I would definitely say there. That is the impact there.
Only the left side of the front wing got damaged. Nothing to the tires, nothing to the suspension, nothing to the bodywork of the car, just the front wing. In fact, here's a very similar crash at the 2018 Australian Grand Prix with Valtteri Bottas, and there is plenty of damage to that car. And I guess that since these new F1 cars are really simple, they don't have as much fragile parts on them, so that could probably be one of the reasons why. And a bit of deja vu for you, Sonoda's crash looked very similar to Barrichello's and Imola 94, but since he didn't crash into a catch fence, no one was harmed. But anyways, the Hungarian Grand Prix, very controversial stuff towards the end of the race. The first 20 laps, I would say, or at least until the first pit window, was not that great. It was a bit boring. It was your average Hungarian bore fest. But once Max Verstappen caught up to Lewis Hamilton, that's when the party started. And I also forgot to mention that Perez and Russell were knocked out in Q1, but whatever, I didn't even notice they were in this race, if I'm being completely honest. But the controversy of the race started in lap 1 when Piastri, Norris, and Verstappen went 3 wide going into turn 1, and then Verstappen completely running off the track and having to give back the position to Norris a few laps later, which kind of makes you think about Abu Dhabi 21 and lap 1 as well. Lewis triggered the pit window within the front runners at lap 17 to try and undercut Verstappen, and both of them were going at the same pace if I'm not wrong, and Lando Norris pitted a lap later than Piastri, and Hamilton was actually catching up Norris for a few laps until his heart suddenly decided to die on him, and then that's when the party started. I'm actually surprised they went that long driving wheel to wheel without colliding with each other, but we'll get into that. The entire time this was happening, Max was just complaining on the radio, and like the entire time, literally the whole race. It was worse than Hamilton at Austria last year, it was worse than Hamilton at Monaco in 2019, and it was definitely worse than any Sebastian Vettel radio from 2016 to 2018. I gotta calm down.
That's what he is.
Hamilton was defending Verstappen so much to the point Leclerc caught up to the back of them, but eventually both of them decided to go for the undercut on Verstappen. I don't know why Red Bull didn't consider that. I think they wanted to offset the strategy to have fresher tires towards the end. And then came the dreaded lap 46. You see, I will never understand giving the driver behind the favorable strategy unless they're trying to undercut the driver in front of them. For example, Sebastian Vettel 2019 in Singapore. And in this instance, it caused a total team meltdown. McLaren just threw away Piastri's entire race by pitting Norris before him. He was now 3 seconds behind after being 2 seconds ahead and controlling the pace the entire time. And yes, in the end, I think Oscar deserved to win that race more than Lando. But the amount of guilt tripping that McLaren radio back and forth was just insane to me. Verstappen finally pitted. It took him 2 attempts to overtake Charles Leclerc, but he got it in the end. And then came Lewis Hamilton, baby.
As Verstappen, well, will he dive this time? This time he gets there, he locks up and he makes contact with his old rival. Verstappen and Hamilton come together again, battling for the final place on the podium.
We're back to 2016 Verstappen, lads. We're back to 2016 peak Pastor Maldostappen. I just made a video on a tier list about Max Verstappen. I even included a compilation of Max Verstappen in 2016. We're back to that version of Verstappen, guys. Here we go. But in all seriousness, that is such a rookie mistake to make. Verstappen has been driving in F1 since 2015, so this is 10th season already, and you know, when he goes for moves, he doesn't really go for calculated moves. He just goes for it. He just sends it. Yeah, that was such a dumb mistake to make. I don't know why you would do that. If it was 2016, yeah, I think we can all agree that, yeah, sure, he's a rookie. But no, now this is unacceptable. And this is why I still consider Lewis Hamilton to have the best racecraft on the grid. Because he knows when to go for a move, and he knows when not to go for a move. Although sometimes he can be be a bit too complacent, but then still, that could also be a good thing. But when you're too overly aggressive like Verstappen, stuff like this happens, and yeah, I don't know, it's just pretty disappointing. And he somehow still managed to blame Hamilton on the radio for that. Excuse me? How was that Hamilton's fault? You were braking way too late, you were way too far behind going into the corner, and Hamilton already started turning in, so obviously you're bound to have a collision. And just by listening to that radio, you can tell GP's pissed off already, and he's tired of Max's stuff.
Yeah, moved under braking. I'm not even going to get into a radio fight with the other teams, Max. We'll let the stewards do their thing. It's childish on the radio. Childish.
Maybe it's time to hop off sim racing for a while, Max. If you didn't know, he actually participated in something with Team Redline before, like the night before the Hungarian Grand Prix. That could be a reason why, I don't know. This also gave me flashbacks to Ricciardo and Bottas in 2018, so yeah, that's kind of funny. And finally came lap 68. After McLaren were constantly guilt-tripping Lando Norris to let Piastri through.
The way to win a championship is not by yourself, it's with the team. You're going to need Oscar, and you're going to need the team.
He finally did, and you can tell he was pissed off on the radio.
Yeah, you don't need to say anything.
People have been saying McLaren were in the wrong for this, but I'm just gonna say it. Yeah, they should have swapped places. Because Piastri was having a better race than Norris. He was leading every single lap up until then, when they decided to give the better strategy to the driver in second. I don't know why you would do that, as I mentioned already. And Norris should have let Piastri by when McLaren told him to do so, because I think that would have been fair, you know, let Piastri by, then you can fight for position. You can see he was still trying to win that race after he let Piastri by. So if you let Piastri by sooner, you could have still won that race. Because I'm also going to be honest, he had better pace towards the end. So yeah, he definitely could have still won that race even if he let Piastri by sooner. But then came the final lap. Piastri crossed the line as a winner. He didn't really sound too happy on the radio.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. Thanks for the coordination. Well done. Maximum points. Really good weekend.
Stroll didn't let Alonso by on the last lap for some reason. It was pretty similar to the deal Bottas and Hamilton had in 2017, that if Hamilton couldn't overtake Raikkonen, he would have to give the place back to Bottas. This time, if Stroll couldn't get past Tsunoda, he would have to give the place back to Alonso. But he didn't give it back, which is strange, but whatever. Man, what a weird day for team orders. This is Lewis Hamilton's fault. If you saw the podium of the 2013 Malaysia Multi-21 Meltdown and the podium of this race, look who's in third place in both of them. Perez and Russell had comeback drives, but literally nobody knew because they didn't show any of it on the broadcast. And somehow, some way or another, Verstappen didn't get a 10-second penalty. That doesn't make any sense. He should have gotten at least a 5-second for that, but whatever. The overall rating I would give this race probably a 6.8 out of 10. It wasn't really filled with that good racing, but seeing the battles between Verstappen and Hamilton and just the McLaren team imploding, that was very entertaining to watch. And believe it or not, Lewis Hamilton is now P6 in the standings ahead of Sergio Perez and George Russell. Genuinely, who saw that coming? We saw how poorly Mercedes started the season to where they are now, especially Lewis Hamilton, as George Russell easily outperformed him in those first few races of the season. But here we are now, and he's ahead of Sergio Perez in the standings. Just, yeah, that's incredible. And to cap it all off, wait, what's that sound? Give me a minute.